I was bringing this up to you before the show, and I was talking about how Ron Hextall is the GM and in Pittsburgh, along with Brian Burke, and let's talk about a rebuild. And there's a different reporters have different takes on things. One of the Penguins beat reporters said the first thing he's going to have to do is trade Evgeni Malkin. Another one is saying, I believe it was actually you that told me that supposedly Rutherford's out because he didn't want to trade Letang.
Yes.
And then it leaves you with Sidney Crosby. So start with Malkin, and I'll make my point on Crosby right now. I can't imagine being the GM that says I traded Sidney Crosby.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I don't want to go too much into Crosby because I want you to handle that. But I said that about Patrick Laine. If you trade Patrick Laine and he ends up being a 50-goal scorer, Kevin Cheveldayoff was going to lose his job at that point, no matter what Pierre-Luc Dubois does, because you're the guy that traded a generational type goal scorer away. But to Malkin's case in point, Malkin has been in the rumor mill for however many years now. Because
I'll say 6.
They've been talking about possibly moving him for God knows how long. And I was the one who told you about the Rutherford thing. That was something that I read early on when that came out. And ownership did not want to move Kris Letang because ownership felt that they were still a Stanley Cup contender or close to it. I disagree, but if they think that they are a goaltender away, which there's been rumors lately about Pittsburgh reacquiring Marc-Andre Fleury. So, I mean, I assume that they're unhappy with the combination of Jarry and DeSmith. I really don't think Casey DeSmith is an NHL level goaltender. I think Tristan Jarry is an okay backup at best. I don't think he's a good quality starter. But if they end up getting Marc-Andre Fleury and they get more help on defense, then who knows what's going to happen with this team, because it seems like every time that you think that they let somebody go, like a Connor Sheary or someone like that, someone else ends up coming up playing with Crosby and Malkin, and then they end up becoming a household name. So there we are with Pittsburgh, right back at it again as a Stanley Cup contender. So maybe Mario was right. Maybe Rutherford was wrong for wanting to rebuild, but I don't see Sidney Crosby getting traded. Evgeni Malkin, if they don't win the Cup this year somehow, I think there's a possibility of it.
I could still see Kris Letang getting moved because even though they don't want to, he's got some value. I don't know how much. He's always injured. And I think I don't want to say a product of his system, but I kind of wonder who's really going out for Kris Letang right now. But the only Malkin could fetch a pretty penny on the open market.
Oh yeah.
And the Crosby price would be way too high. I wouldn't want to pay. Especially for a guy that's 33. The price that they're going to ask. It's different for Jack Eichel, who's much younger, and you might want to go and get him. It's just I don't know. And I know whenever you get the new guys coming in, Ron Hextall might favor the rebuild. Brian Burke might favor the retool. Brian Burke ended up trading a player, and the player walked out to him and said, "Should I be nervous?" And he just looked over and said, "I didn't want to trade you. I traded you because I had to. I had no choice." We closed last week's segment, but we never aired it. So I'm going to say it again. Why isn't there more talk or more progress? Tony DeAngelo for Sam Bennett, because it makes too much sense.
You know what? Honestly, the Rangers, from what I heard and what was said by Larry Brooks, Bob McKenzie, Darren Dreger, all the insiders said it, that the Rangers do not want to retain. And I think that's probably why he's not moved yet, because I think teams know that they can get him next offseason, or this upcoming offseason, I should say. at a fraction of what he's worth, because you got to remember, he's a risk, a major risk at 4.85, I think, million.
Yes.
Against the cap. So he's a major risk at that price. But at a fraction of that, like, I don't know, for example, 1.25, something, or 1.2 or something like that, like a quarter of it, or maybe even $1 million or less. Who knows what he ends up actually getting on his next deal. But at that price, it's a low risk, high reward type contract, because you can move him out if he ends up being a problem and he's a locker room cancer again. Then that's his last chance, and he's done at $1 million. And you could easily bury that in the minors or buy him out at that point. But at 4.85 or $3 million, or I don't know how much they want the Rangers to retain, but at that price, it's a lot more of a risk, especially for a contender who probably doesn't have the cap room without sending a bad contract back.
I think you have to retain. You have to retain. Otherwise, you have to give back a high-level draft pick or something like that, or like even like a second-round pick. Just retain the money. You got a ton of money coming off the books. It is for one more season. That's all you have to do. You're not getting anything this season. And as I keep saying over and over again, Pavel Buchnevich is not going to be here next year. I don't see a scenario. You can't tell me there's a scenario where he's playing on this team. If he is, he's on the third line, and you're not paying him $5 million. That's not going to happen.
I mean,
it just because Vitaly Kravtsov's coming, and it's already a logjam considering that you only have 2 open spaces on the top 2 units, and that's assuming Ryan Strome is still here. I don't see how Ryan Strome is here with the Seattle expansion and being a last place team and only having a 2-year deal. This is the reason why the Rangers did stuff like this. So, because first off, the Rangers need a second line center. I'm not saying it's Sam Bennett. I'm not saying it's Sam Bennett either. I'm just saying you need to build your centers up. And you just to get rid of D'Angelo, because every day that he's not playing, he's losing value. And you think a team's going to give up top dollar for him in the offseason?
No.
They need help now.
No, and I was going to say that honestly, like they're going to just wait for them to buy him out. That's what I honestly at this point I think that's what's going to end up happening, is they're just going to wait for Tony DeAngelo to get bought out, and some team is going to take a low risk, high reward flyer on him at like $1 million or so. And I mean, I don't blame them for doing that. And to your point about centers, I mean, Ryan Strome may not be the guy in the number 2 spot, but we need to see more from Filipino. So, and Mika Zibanejad's obviously got to be worlds better than what he is right now. So, do the Rangers end up looking again at Jack Eichel in the offseason? Because
I think the answer is yes, no matter what to that.
Well, here's the thing. Buffalo, like I said before, has been an even bigger problem than the New York Rangers. They've been an even bigger dumpster fire. I mean, they brought in Taylor Hall on a 1-year deal. He really hasn't deserved that. Jeff Skinner probably has the worst contract in the entire NHL right now. He has 1 point, 1 assist, and is making $9 million against the cap for that 40-goal year he had with Eichel 2 years ago.
So Jacob Trouba haters, eat that one. But again, they're gonna look at Eichel because you got to do your due diligence.
It's not just due diligence though. Here's something that I don't know if I've told you this before, but Jack Eichel's got a $7.5 million signing bonus due to him on July 1st of 2022. So, and you know the Pagulas and how cheap they've been with their contracts over the years regarding the Sabres. Do you honestly see Terry Pegula shelling out $7.5 million to a guy that he knows doesn't want to be there when the team is still a dumpster fire despite him playing as well as he plays?
Yeah. And on top of that, you're talking about this is his 6th year in the league, and he hasn't played 1 playoff game?
No, not 1.
And none of it's his fault. Like Buffalo is sort of in a tear it down situation. And one reason why I'm not keen on tanking for the Rangers is because you don't need more top end talent. You need more bottom end talent. And yeah, it's just how they got to do that right now.
Hey, you still here? Well, you know what you should do? You should watch some of these other videos on our channel, like this one, comment, and share it with other people.